Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. Here with Benji Naesen as usual and Baby Yoda for the recap of Stage 13 of the Tour de France, the second sprint stage on paper in a row. This show is supported by our show partner, Le Col, who produce performance cycling apparel. The stage from Nîmes to Carcassonne. Now, Cav missed out yesterday. Well, all the sprinters did really because the breakaway, and that was gone when the stage kicked off with the crosswinds. But today, 220 Ks, another lumpy stage. Yes, one categorized climb, Côte to Pic Saint-Loup, 5.5 Ks, 4%. But there's loads of other uncategorized climbs, in the last 50 to 70 Ks. And the finish is also a bit of an uphill drag, false flat gradient, uphill drag. The last 4.5 Ks at technical, and that's why they extended the 3-kilometer rule to 4.5 Ks. But yeah, Benji, we thought it was a good opportunity for the break again, and people did try, but Quickstep really weren't having it today, unlike yesterday.
Yeah, certainly. They tried at the start themselves with Asgreen and so forth, trying to go in the breakaway. We saw Fanart try and go in the breakaway. We saw a lot of people trying to go in the breakaway. Just a huge attempt to do the same thing as yesterday. And it didn't really work out because they kept on closing down gaps. So, for example, you've got an attack of 7 rouleur riders at the front of the peloton. A rouleur rider, some people asked that in one of our podcasts, that's just a rider that is pretty decent at riding on the flat, bit of a flat engine. 7 of those riding away. The Koenig has 1 rider in there, but they also attempt to close that down as well while they have a rider in it. So they self-neutralize it by being in it, plus they try and close it down to make sure there's not a strong breakaway away. And that's exactly what was what has happened here at the start of the stage. And it happened so much that at a certain point, everybody was like, okay, I'm kind of done for a moment. And 3 riders slipped away, Pierre Latour, Sean Bennett, and Omer Goldstein. And those 3 riders were off for a bit because then we saw the usual tactical behavior at the front of the peloton that 90% of the world doesn't enjoy watching. That's the fact that a team like UAE and the Koenig, who doesn't want another breakaway to form, puts himself at the front, rides a very slow tempo to make sure that the gap to the breakaway expands very quickly. And when that is going on, they are technically also kind of blocking the road for people to try and attack. We saw that today. Some people tried to slip past again. I think Stuyven tried to attack again, but in the end, those were the 3 riders that were up the road, and Pierre Latour, Bennett, and Goldstein weren't seen again until a few moments later in the race, a few hours at least.
Yeah, and those guys presumably going for the combativity prize. They wouldn't get it despite just sort of thrashing about in the breakaway. Poor guys, maybe they're the wrong nationalities. But yeah, it looked like it's the difference you see when yesterday we see 10 men go and the quality of that break, it's going to 10 minutes. Today they're keeping it tight, 2 guys, and we know it's going to be, we know it should be a sprint, but as we get later into the stage, they get brought back actually quite early. It's long, 220 Ks. The intermediate sprint, I think Cavendish basically let the others have, it was kind of halfway up that climb. Others took like 3-4 points on Cavendish, Philipsen, and Colbrelli. But Cav mentioned this in an interview the other day. He's like, they can take 5 or 6 points on me at the intermediate sprints, but I'm literally destroying them in the final sprints. And like Colbrelli's coming like 20th. So have at it. So he's focusing on stage wins, which with this parcours at the Tour de France is the correct thing to do. Benji and I mentioned this in the previous show. This is the year that a pure sprinter can win the green jersey comfortably if he dominates. So Quickstep controlling. There's then a crash. What did you see as the cause of that crash, Benji? Because it was Quickstep's big man to control, de Klerk, going down in it.
Yeah, it looked like somebody just hit the ground or hit a pole or something by the side of the road. And that caused everybody else to just have to brake very swiftly and swerve out of the way. And some people went down the hill and so forth. I don't exactly know what the cause of the crash were because the video footage doesn't exactly show it too well. So from that, I'm guessing that, somebody went down and the others just hit him. And in the end, Geraint Thomas was in that crash. We had Kees Bol going down the hill together with Søren Andersen, Joris Nieuwenhuis. So basically half the team of DSM was down at that moment. Simon Yates, one of the biggest victims. He's out of the race. So a bit unfortunate for the upcoming mountain stages. One of the breakaway guys that could definitely have had an opportunity for that. Also Nasser Buhani hitting the ground. So perhaps that could play a role in his sprint afterwards towards the end of the stage. I think those were the most important names. Rafa Maika also down. That's UAE. So potentially not too great for UAE as well when it comes to support for Pogacar in the upcoming mountain stages. If Micah was pretty bad, but he looked to be standing up very swiftly, although he was always also down there, down the hill in the bushes. It was a bit crazy to see like all the bikes being pulled from the bushes by the
Yeah,
side
I
of the
know.
road. Bit of a sketchy thing, kind of horrible to see. But anyway, from that crash, we went over to Chaos in the Peloton instantly, and we saw Van Aert at the front of the peloton. But most importantly, the man is back. The myth, the man, the legend. I switched that around. Alex Aramburu was at the front of the peloton
Was he?
for a good 1 minute.
I saw Kelderman pulling as well. It was a combination of the rouleurs, Bora Hansgrohe both probably wanting to get some, thinking about stage win action if they can put Quick-Step under pressure, because Alaphilippe then had to start pulling, and, awesome rider Alaphilippe, but on this sort of lumpy false flat drag, if you look at the profile, really sort of heavy stage, he's got riders like Niels Pollitt moving up, or Daniel Oss trying to put him under pressure, and he can't really keep that front position on the peloton. They got Kelderman pulling. Kwiatkowski moves up with Carapaz on his wheel. They're even changing turns, but apparently they're thinking there was echelon action, Benji, and you've got the combination of De Klerk crashing. Quentin Pacher, he'd gone solo. He's the man who did win combativity. He gets brought back. I didn't really notice, so it goes to show how important the combativity prize is. But the wind just wasn't strong enough, and you really didn't see the peloton moving horizontally at all. Everyone's in a straight line. You look at the trees, zero movement. The flags on the side of the road, hanging limp. So it really didn't. It didn't really work out for Bora or them. And Kuhn crashed as well, and I think he would have tried to put Quick-Step under pressure. Because Benji, if you're, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a team. If you're let's say Bora's a good example. That's the only way you can win this stage, right? If you had to take a flyer with Pollard or Purstelberger and have Cavendish on the wrong side of a split.
Yeah, or you can do it differently. You can try and pressure a team like the Koenig in such a situation to try and go for a bit of a reverse lead-out attack like Purstelberger did in that Giro a few years ago in the final kilometer, try and attack in that section after you've hurt the Koenig in the echelon sections, and they have reduced men to try and take control in the final sprint. So those are things that you could do here, but the Koenig survived that echelon section pretty well, it seems. And I think the only rider that they lost was Alaphilippe, who had taken over the job of De Klerk after De Klerk fell. And in the end, they were setting up for a mass sprint towards the end, and I don't think anybody was thinking differently. We saw us going into the final 4.5 kilometers with Ineos at the front, trying to keep themselves safe until that spot, but they also kept themselves at the front just after that until 3K to go, because it was still a bit of a descent right there. So I'm not sure the 4.5 kilometer switch 100% worked here. You think it did?
I think it did. 100%.
Okay.
Kwiatkowski stops his action about 4Ks to go.
Mm-hmm.
He's not, if someone else wanted to move in front and they did at about 3.8, they could have, and that's what happened. I think he basically was at the front with 4.5. They're then going single file into the technical section. He's like, well, I'm already carrying speed here now. Carapaz on my wheel, and no one really moved up. So I do think definitely riders. Yeah. And also, I'm not sure it was signposted too well, the 4.5. If I was him, I would have been like, let's just add another 500 meters just to be sure.
Just in case.
Never a bad idea. But yeah, 3Ks to go, we've had Quebecer and Cofidis at the front of the peloton for some reason. They're disappearing. Got this flat, maybe they're going for Laporte. They've got this sort of false flat uphill drag. It suits him a little bit more, but his Quick-Step taking control eventually into the circuit. 1,600 meters to go. The familiar sight, Asgren, Ballerini, Murkov, Cavendish. And I think there was a turn, Benji, like a right-hand turn. I can't remember. I'll watch it again. But Quick-Step they got a little bit cocky today. And when I say that, they went a little bit, they were a little bit early with Asgren. And you see Ballerini, if I try and find it, it's before that left-hand corner. Ballerini looks at 800, 750 to go, looks over his right shoulder. He sees no trains, and he's thinking, we can wait a little bit because no one's going to come up. Because there's no Dries de Bont, Merlier, Ricard triple header combo leading out Philipsen or the other way around. You have a Shell de Praise, which can put them under pressure. So he kind of lets Asgren dangle on the front, and then DSM through that corner goes bang. And I'm thinking, have Quick-Step stuffed this? But they hadn't. They basically got the free drag from 600 to 500 by DSM. Then Ballerini kicks with 500 meters to go. Murkov lets the wheel go, And then the DSM lead-out man just has to re-kick again with Bol on the wheel. Murku now takes that wheel of the DSM lead-out man off Case Bol. He's got Cavendish on his wheel. Ivan Garcia Cortina goes to jump the gap to Ballerini, who's a strong man. Murku then gets onto his wheel with Cavendish on his wheel. So Murku's getting this draft the whole time from other lead-out men. He kicks with like 200 to go. Cavendish comes out of the wheel. Philipsen tried to anticipate, but Cav's just way too quick. And it was a messy sprint, Benji, but you got to say, De Koning absolutely played everybody.
Yeah, certainly. Ballerini with the reverse lead out, perfect move.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I think that Garcia Cortina helped De Koning way more than it put them under pressure, because that added an extra lead out for Murku to just sit on until he launches his lead out to launch Cavendish in the end. And once again, Cavendish just has to come over in the final 25 meters. And that's the beauty of these Cav sprints. It's so well prepared, and Murku is proving that he once again is the best lead out in the world. And I think that he can adapt to situations so swiftly, which makes it so valuable. Because today, he didn't have to do a regular lead out. He had to follow the wheel of a Garcia Cortina, for example. He had the insight of saying, that's the wheel I need to be on. That's the move I need to be on. While Ballerini is still ahead of Garcia Cortina, for example. After that, I need to try and take over now, ASAP, because that will allow Cavendish to come around as well. And yeah, perfect lead out once again that way. And a lead out is not as simple as just having 4 riders in a row every time. It has to be adapted to certain situations. And that's why Murku is the best at it. He can adapt to everything. And it felt like he kind of had to break in the end to make sure Cavendish won. But I looked back, and it seemed like Murku was actually still doing a bit of a bike show on the finish line. So
he was, yeah.
Yeah, he was still going for it. But I think that we need to report a petition. I feel like thanks to Sterling's dive. Yeah, thanks to Sterling's dive. I think I want a petition for Michael Murku to beat Cavendish on the Champs-Élysées and ruin every Englishman's dreams. Well, sure, he's a Manxman, I know.
What do you mean, mate?
But they pretend he's English, so...
His dreams, he'll already have beaten the record on stage 19. So, of course, he's going to lead it.
No, but that's boring, doing it on stage 19. I feel like they need to sprint for Murku on 19, and then for Cavendish on the last one to make it like at least a bit intense, okay? It's a bit boring otherwise.
The De Koning Quickstep companies who sponsor Quickstep are just like, get this Benji guy off the air. Like, no, we're not going to mess around like that. It's like me being like, it's like me saying, yeah, Jumbo Visma 100%, they got to bring Wout back to pace things. God, screw the stage win. Doesn't even matter. On stage wins, yellow jerseys fly forever. But here's the final results. That dominance Benji's talking about. Cavendish first, Murku second. De Koning Quickstep 1-2. This is in a full group, by the way, not like the Merlier Philipsen 1-2 in a group where Ewan took out Sagan that were on his wheel. Philipsen third, Garcia Cortina fourth, probably his best result. The Tour Sauval, Van Poppel fifth, Aaron Baru, Benji, he's woken up. I forgot he was here. Sixth, Laporte 2 seventh, Greipel eighth, Korf 9, Sturven 10th, Buani 11th. Matthews 12th is surprising on this sort of finish, right?
That's a shit result, isn't it? As simple as that. I think it's mainly due to positioning, because Van Aert was also trying to move up.
15th
was unable to move up at all in the final corner, and because of that, they were out positioned. And I think that De Koning had the strength to move Cavendish towards a friend once again, and that was ideal in... Yeah, okay, so the lead out is not only important of launching the sprint, it's also super important of bringing your sprinter to the position where you can launch a sprint perfectly, and that's also very valuable. That's also why a rider, a sprinter on De Koning is so strong. It's because their lead out is often, if not always, the best lead out in the race, just the last lead out in the final section. And as a consequence, if you're on that sprint train, you're just consistently more likely to win because you have more opportunities than other people as well.
Well, you look at Philipsen's beaten Cavendish, most notably this year, and Bennett at Shoulder Price. The way he beat them there is completely different to how he's trying to beat Cavendish at the Tour de France, and he has no other choice at the Tour because he has no lead out. He has Ricard, and Ricard does his best, and he did a good job to put him on Cav's wheel. It's the best wheel to be on. But if you're on Cav's wheel with Murku launching at 65 k's an hour and Cav coming out of Murku's wheel with 50 meters to go, you're not beating him. Philipsen's not shown that he has the Marcel Kittel or Peak Jakobsen crazy speed where he can launch early at 80, 100 meters or more off Cavendish wheel and put a full bike length and an inch on him in that time. If he's coming out of the wheel as he did here with 50 meters to go, no chance. And that's why he just keeps coming sort of second and third behind Cavendish. And I don't really see that changing. Case Bowl, Benji, I'm watching DSM. I think it's good that I like what they tried today. Again, it was a little bit early. They needed one more man. And Bowl, again, you see Bowl with 500 or 450 meters to go. His lead-up man's telling him very obviously, flicking him. Even if you pause it, I'll even pause this graphic. He's pointing at Bowl to get onto the quick-step train, and Bowl keeps following him away from the quick-step train and then promptly blows up with 400 meters to go and doesn't even contest a sprint. And I feel like either he's physically unwell, people have said maybe he's physically unwell, or there's mentally, I don't know what's going on. Either way, if he is physically unwell, he shouldn't be racing.
Yeah, he crashed again today, but we don't know the consequences of crashes, and we can't really judge that without hearing the athlete. So for now, it's a bit harsh, like impossible for us to like guess whether it's crash related or not. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and you know, people saying, oh, you may be being harsh on him. But again, we don't know if he is sick or not. If he is, we apologise, but if he is unwell, then we would say he shouldn't be in the Tour de France contesting bunch sprints. So yeah, just Cav equals the record, Benji. Does it matter? To me, it matters not one bit, not a single bit. No, that the competition isn't as strong. It's the Tour de France stage nonetheless. Do I think Cavendish, if you line up Bennett and all the other peak sprinters, would beat them consistently? No. But he's here at the Tour. Quick-Step have brought the best train. They've planned the best. They're executing the best. And why isn't everyone else here? Ewan made a bad decision on stage 3, crashed himself out. So, like, does the sprint field really matter to you, Benji, or is it disappointing to you that we're not seeing maybe the best of the best guys sprinting?
Yeah, I think it's slightly disappointing in the sense that I would have hoped to see the best against the best. That's what I want to see in the Tour. And it doesn't hurt me per se that it's not happening right now. It doesn't take away from the victories that Cavendish is getting. I think that people who watch cycling in the mainstream, though, they will have a different image towards cycling now. For example, for the people that only watch the Tour de France, they will think that Mark Cavendish is the best sprinter in the world right now, while to me he's not even in the top 3. So I think that is the consequence of that. You've got the people like us who watch every bloody cycling race that is on in the world, and we will know that there's better sprinters out there and judge that appropriately. But the mainstream public, the ones that watch the Tour de France and so forth, and that's not a bad thing, watching solely the Tour de France, but they will have the thought that Cavendish is now the best sprinter in the world as a consequence. And that's the one thing that annoys me, because, yeah, I like people being informed.
Well, I guess we watched him against Philipsen 6 times in Tour of Turkey, so I guess we're not learning anything particularly new here. It's like, it's not great for him. I guess if you were to beat the Quick-Step lead-up, Benji, is the option to put someone on Cav's wheel or Bennett's wheel, or this year surely the better option, apart from that one sprint with Ewan at UAE Tour where Ewan got onto Bennett's wheel and just torched him on the last stage, that he has peak speed, surely the better option is to try what DSM tried to do, what Alpecin did at Chelles de Prêche, and try and actually overcome that Quick-Step lead-out.
Yeah, but I just don't see that working very easily. I think that the best way to do it...
Easier said than done, of course.
The best way to do it will still be to try and force a big breakaway on stage 19. And why? Because de Klerk just finished 2 minutes before the time limit after his crash. He's not looking too amazing. So they don't have that extra engine at the front of the peloton. They'll have to start using Alaphilippe for such stuff. And Asgreen, for example. And those are riders that they might need for the chase in the end. And that's why stage 19 could... I won't say easily, but could potentially also be a breakaway opportunity like the one we saw yesterday. And I think it will fully depend on who tries on that day. I think there's a lot of people in the peloton that will still need to try stuff. Someone like an Oliver Naesen, for example, that kind of type of rider, a Kung, those are the type of races where they can still try and go in the breakaway for something big. And towards the end of a Grand Tour, after the mountain stage, the sprint team might say, okay, we need a day off to prep for Champs-Élysées or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. That's
I feel like Quick-Step were happy to take yesterday off, to be honest.
Yeah.
Cavendish afterwards was like, that I was a bit tired, whatever. So that made a lot of sense. But before we get to the preview of tomorrow's stage, I want to mention our show partner, Locol. They've supported us since the inception of this podcast, just about when Benji and I were doing the Britannia Classic, probably the second time we ever spoke to each other last year. And Locol have kept supporting us. This year, they've just released, just before the Tour de France, in time for summer, their new lightweight collection, which will help you stay cool on long rides, and it's made of breathable fabrics. In Andorra, it's hot as hell, and I've been wearing it. I did at Rabassa this morning, and it certainly helped. If you want to pick up any Locol kit, you can use our code LRTDF20. That's LRTDF20, all caps, which can get you 20% off all Locol items, even if they've already been discounted. There's also a Strava challenge if you want to join the Locol Strava Club as well. Which can get you additional discounts, but they sort of apply after the Tour de France as well. Benji, tomorrow's stage, I'm thinking breakaway all day, 184 Ks, Carcassonne to Quilin. It's medium mountain, and it's got a number of sort of Cat 3s, Cat 2s. The hardest ones are the Col de Montségur, 4.3 Ks, 8.1%. We're getting close to the Andorran border here. That's 4.3 Ks, 8.1%. That's quite hard. It reminds me of the he or she one. This reminds me of the he or she stage win last year a lot. The last climb, Col de Saint Louis, 4.6 Ks, 7%. That crest with 17 Ks to go. There's bonus seconds on top. I can't remember. I don't think there's any like KOM bonuses, but Alaphilippe, Wout van Aert, Benji, they got to be favourites 1 and 2 for this. Am I missing anyone? Colbrelli?
On the preview, you named a rider that I'd like to steal, Matej Mohoric. He's going to try again on stage 14.
Oh, true.
I think that it fits him. And it was your pick for the podcast on the preview one. I checked yesterday. So if it happens, it's still credit to you, but you're allowed to go for a different pick here.
I think the way he won stage 7, I think good timing, and he then got in a group with Sturven. I think if he's in a group on Col de Saint Louis with the likes of Alaphilippe, Wout van Aert, they'll destroy him. If he goes to the finish with them, maybe I don't know how technical the descent is. Maybe it is technical, but Wout van Aert's a good descender, so is Alaphilippe. So
he can drop everyone like a rock.
Yeah, but I find it tough for him. 17K. I certainly like him from the reduced bunch behind. Colbrelli, big opportunity for him. I mean, do you think maybe Bahrain use Mohoric if you're Bahrain, Benji, do you put Mohoric in the break, or do you say, no, you're going to pace today the break to set up the Colbrelli sprint for the stage win against the likes of Matthews, Aramburu and co? I think that's a problem, because I think there's going to be a strong break that's going to be hard to bring back.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'd put Mohoric in the breakaway and go for that opportunity. He's proven it once that he deserves another attempt at it. And I feel like he deserves to at least try a Freilich for Astana as well.
Yeah.
And Aramburu, for example, might have an opportunity on this stage as well. Those types of riders, I think Latour might try again after today. But then again, today didn't really fit him. I don't know why he chose this stage over tomorrow, to be honest. Just a lot of opportunities for riders who have nothing yet, and are those riders that you would put in a breakaway. Once the end might try again, Mollema, for example, but I think we need to look at one person and one person only. He is sitting quite nicely in GC on position 117 on 2 hours and 10 minutes, and tomorrow he needs to take back at least 2 hours of that if he wants to win GC like we expect. André Greipel.
He's climbing all right. He's good in the finish today. It's a little uphill drag. I like Van Avermaet. Surely should be looking to get in the break tomorrow as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Peak Van Avermaet should be very competitive on this finish. Murasa as well.
Valverde?
Movistar, free some guys. I like that they've given free them. Come on, man. Just get Everty and Verona in the break with, if Verona had issues today, I think Valverde, come on, get him in the break with Valverde and give him an opportunity. He doesn't have enough wins yet. I'm trying to look at some other, Mike Woods, Benji as well. I mean,
the descends in the race.
I know, but he beat Valverde.
Yeah, you're right.
Remember in that Vuelta stage with a similar climb? That wasn't technical, of course, but when he has the legs, he's good.
You've got Dreg that will try a lot. I think that they'll put people in the breakaway, like you said, Mollema, but don't forget about the Shark himself, who is apparently going to Astana.
All right, we'll save that for a clip. But yeah, I heard that rumor. I heard that rumor about 3-4 weeks ago, actually, about talks ages ago. So, we'll save that one. But I'm not getting too excited about it. Do you reckon Ineos will free anyone, Benji? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. Kwiatkowski, I'd love to see him have an opportunity.
It's never going to happen, mate. He's in prison.
I know he's in prison, yeah. He signed it. He signed on the dotted line. That's what it is. All right. We hope you enjoyed the recap of today's podcast.
Magnus Cort.
Oh, yeah. He went for today's stage? Yeah, Magnus Cort, write him down for anything like this. Did you say Valgren?
Not today, but I can try and say it. Valgren, there we go.
Yeah.
We've crossed that also.
Sergio Aguita's quick as well. We like so many. There's so many guys.
So it's also like a meh. I feel like he should try on the mountains more than on these hilly parcours.
The point is, we've said so many names. Those are the guys, and there's so many climbs early on that will be trying to, they can form this sort of breakaway. Trying to control it will be very difficult, and UAE obviously won't give care at all about
one
the
more
break
thing.
Going. Yes, sir.
A team like FDG now lost Godus GC. They've lost Demar in sprints. Do you think that a Madua could potentially get in a breakaway?
I've not seen him. He's been struggling as well.
Perhaps
is there sickness going through that team or something?
Yeah, it looked like Armirai was also in sickness trouble before Godus. Yeah. So it could be possible, to be honest.
Ida Schelling as well. Love to see it in tomorrow's stage. Maybe the climb's a little bit long, but there's Conrad as well. He'll try for sure.
Just name half the peloton, okay?
No, it's all the guys in that stage 7 break, and that's why I just see break all day. Maybe we'll be proven wrong, and Pogacar attacks takes the bonus seconds.
Who was it for you?
Who did I say?
I don't remember. Mine is Wout
van Aert.
Okay, there we go.
All right. We hope you enjoyed today's recap. Cav equaling Merck's record. Benji's really, really excited about it, and we'll see you at the recap of the Pileup stage tomorrow before it comes to Andorra on Sunday. Till then, ciao.